Hey everyone, welcome. It is December 2nd, 2018. A wonderful 11:47 in the morning here on the East Coast time, America time. I am very happy to be bringing this broadcast to you. First of all, we got a number of great things to show you guys and to tell you about. But what I'm going to do first is we are going to start things off with this great video that has been prepared by WAKO to explain what exactly is going on, and then we're going to get right into it with Mr. Roy Baker. Stay tuned and watch this great video. Wow, that was an amazing video. And, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring in my next guest. You all know him, Mr. Roy Baker. We're going to go ahead and bring him live into this broadcast so we can talk shop. Roy, thank you for joining us. How are you doing today?
Hi, everybody. I'm doing very good. Happy weekend for me.
Now, November 30th, as it was explained on your post, will go down in kickboxing history. Why don't you go ahead and tell everybody exactly what happened, exactly what this means with the Olympic Committee.
Sure. So what happened on Friday was the IOC had a meeting in Tokyo where they had an assembly of the IOC executive board. And I'm delighted to say at that meeting, kickboxing was accepted to be a member of the International Olympic Committee, part of the Olympic family.
So This is something that you guys have been working towards for, I mean, a number of years. I mean, can you give me a little bit background of how long this has been in the works?
Yeah, so we made our first application in 2013. We made our second application in 2016. And it takes that long in these applications. It's a very thorough process that you do with the IOC Sports Department. We had a team put together of myself, Espen Lund, and Borislav Pelovic, God rest his soul, in association with our legal team. So we spent, it's been nearly 3 years in a process of making the application, giving further clarifications, actually changing the way we do things. So it's been a big evolution for the sport of kickboxing over the last 3 years and the previous 2 years before that, because there's quite significant protocol and requirements to become part of the Olympic family.
Now, this is something like we said, it's been in the works for so long. Now, if I read the information right, since it's been granted provisional status, that means that now is that countries that have an Olympic program, they're eligible to receive funding for to develop or to start bringing athletes for potential
Yeah,
future
so
Olympics.
probably you may know WAKO currently has 127 member nations, and of those 127 member nations, 95, 96 of those are recognized by the Ministry of Sport or National Olympic Committee. So one of the big things the IOC recognition will do for our member federations is those that aren't currently recognised. It gives them the ability to apply for recognition because the sport itself has received that recognition at the world level through the IOC, through a long process. So it brings an ability for our nations that aren't recognised to be recognised. It's a very big thing for federations. So that recognition brings along credibility, brings recognition, brings fundings within the Ministry of Sport or the National Olympic Committees. And most importantly, it brings services to the athletes that our kickboxing athletes haven't had before. And for me, that's the biggest thing. The development here isn't really for WAKO. It's the ability for us to give more, develop more for the athletes.
Now, one of the things that we also saw in the video, and also that I know from coming to events like the Irish Open and all other WAKO events, is that you guys really are putting the competitor first. The video mentioned you are family. It's not an ego-driven thing. It's not a this is WAKO, but expand a bit more about why you guys love to do things for the competitors, for giving back.
Well, thanks for saying that. We are volunteers. I'm a volunteer. The three people that ran the IOC application process are all volunteers. So we're not, this isn't a private company. WAKO is a real international federation. It's constitutionally based. It's a not-for-profit making organization. 95% of its participants are volunteers. So we really do this because my vision, Ina Falsoni's vision, George Bruckner's vision, Borislav Pelovic's vision was to get through that IOC application, because for your sport to get any form of credibility, getting through into the IOC process really helps that. And that brings a kind of a relevance for the sport worldwide. And for me, that's what we stand for on WAKO. We stand for really making the sport more beautiful, giving back into the sport, building the program out, making the competitions better, stronger for the athletes. I mean, one of the great examples was kickboxing. Actually was the first federation that did the IOC Athlete Career Development Program. So we ran a trial program with Espen Lund, who built out that program. So we were the first international federation in the world to run that pilot athletes career program. And that made us unique. And the IOC seen that. So they've seen that we're not just a group of, say, individuals promoting ourselves or promoting our events, that this is a real world federation that's trying to do what a real world federation should do in relation to development, good governance, and giving back to the athletes.
So with this, with WAKO getting the provisional status, I know these things take time. What would be the first potential next? Actually, what are the next steps? Let's go ahead and proceed.
Well, really, for us, what a lot of people don't understand is, apart from the credibility it brings to the sport and the ability for the sport in the at national level and international level, to be honest, to get sponsorship, bringing credibility and possible sponsors. What it does for WAKO, unfortunately, as a volunteer of WAKO, is it brings a lot more obligations to us as WAKO. So we've already received confirmation from the IOC Sports Department that we need to focus more on anti-doping, athlete development, official education. We need to, but what it does do is it gives us access to IOC working groups, so we can get really, top international subject matter experts to come in and help us develop these programs that we've already started, but now we need to bring them to the next level.
And for the competitor, let's say, for example, everything rolls right along, we're hitting the mark every single time. What does that mean for the competitor as far as when he or she may see a potential tryout? Because these things happen so many years ahead of time. Like, for example, the Olympics that are coming up, teams have already developed, athletes are training. Do you have a guess?
That's probably the biggest misconception out there. So there's two very distinct processes. So the number one process was you have to become part of the Olympic family of sports.
Okay.
And when you become part of that Olympic family of sports, our first job is we've got a 3-year probationary period. We need to make sure that we hit all the milestones to come out of that probationary period and then go into the IOC meeting, where we get then brought into the family formally as a full member. So from a WAKO perspective and a sports perspective, 3 years from now, there'll be an IOC session. And at that session, we need to make sure that we've ticked off all the requirements that we are required to do to be a full member of the IOC family. So that's number one. Then number two, which is probably the biggest misconception out there, is being IOC recognized does not mean that you're part of the Olympic Games. That's fundamentally a different process. So to be part of the Olympic Games, there's a group of sports within the Olympic Games that are core sports. And the core sports have been there for a long time. And I think it's about 28 sports. And then there's a second group of sports that are possible sports. So I'll give you Tokyo as the perfect example. So in Tokyo, as non-core sports that has been included in the Tokyo Olympic Games, karate, skateboarding, sport climbing, surfing, and baseball, softball, which is very close to your heart in America. Mm-hmm. So those 5 sports have been included in the sports program in Tokyo. And then you have the core sports like athletics and boxing and wrestling that are there at every Olympic Games. And then you have these possible sports, non-core sports that are there. So kickboxing isn't in 2020, isn't in 2024. And I don't know whether we will have an opportunity for 2028. So that's a much longer vision. But what we do have a possibility of doing is there is the Pan American Olympic Games, there is the European Olympic Games, there is the Oceania Olympic Games, there is the African Olympic Games. So there's possibilities of our athletes getting into them. And that's something that we, WAKO, will start to drive towards and drive forward. And there's also the youth Olympic Games. We are already in the Asian Indoor Martial Arts Games with OKA and the WAKO Asia. So our job really at the moment now is we've got the IOC application through, we've got provisional recognition. It opens the door to these other continental games, and then a longer step forward is the Olympic Games themselves. But that's a tall order.
I was going to say, it sounds like you've got your work cut out for you. I know you have the drive to do this. You've been working at it for such a long time. And I know you've got an army of good people behind you. You sound like you actually have your ducks in a row. So I think from what you just said, that means that competitors out there, keep training. You guys are going to put the scaffolding up to make sure that we have the structure, the recognition. And for you younger competitors, maybe somebody listening right now, you very well could be representing your country for the Olympics in one day.
Yeah, it is. I mean, honestly, it's like, we've got a huge amount of positive return from this. I mean, you see my post on Facebook, my own personal post. I mean, it got 1,800 likes, 1,400 shares. It's hit something like 1 million impressions at the moment. So it's good for all of our sport. It's good for every federation. It's good for every athlete, because it does bring that credibility back. And there's something I really want to point out. I'm only a very small part of a very big cog in WAKO. We have a huge amount of people in the background, all volunteers that work for WAKO and have built out this program. Like I said, Espen Lund led this program from the beginning, and he's been the main instigator. I've supported Espen, the legal team supported Espen, Borislav have, and the WAKO IF board supported the program. But it's a huge amount. I mean, it's thousands of documents. You've no idea if the work involved. So it's a huge amount of work and involvement from a lot of people far beyond me. I'm only a little cog in that big, big wheel.
As always, I know you give credit to everyone that's due. It's I know it's been a tremendous amount of work. I've heard about this for years. It's good to see a milestone, but yet there's a lot of work to go. So I know you're the man for it. You have an indomitable drive to get to spearhead this thing, and also with the great amount of people you have backing you up, I think we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, it's on my bucket list, and I will say, being in the Olympic Games is on my bucket list. So I do have a bucket list. So it is a vision. It's a future for our sport, but it's a long way away. To make you understand, the IOC only has 40 recognized sports.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a tight held community. So we're in that 40 sports now. We now make an application for ARIS, which is the Association of Internationally Recognized Sports under the IOC. We'll make that application now to go into that group. And then from that, myself and the rest of the International Committee and the WAKO board will make a number of, clear objectives to set up over the next year, 2 years or 3 years. But don't forget, we're already in the World Games. So kickboxing is already in the World Games, albeit only K1. We expect that to expand in later years out to other disciplines within WAKO, because we have to remember we've got seven different disciplines in WAKO within the WAKO family of sports. And we need to make sure that there's something for all of those disciplines so that everybody gets a share of the WAKO cake and the opportunity to, for me, the most important thing is to allow every athlete to have an opportunity to step up on a truly, truly extraordinary world stage. That's it for me. As a past athlete, that's it for me. If I do that, I'm happy.
That is very well said. Like I said, a lot of work to go. Insurmountable amount of paperwork, anti-doping, et cetera, et cetera. One of the things I definitely want to ask you about is that in professional sports, anti-doping is a huge thing. Give everyone just a brief idea what exactly it means, what you can't do, et cetera, so they can think. There's plenty of information out there for guys to Google and everything, but just a quick synopsis on
so within WAKO we have a TDP, a test distribution plan, and within that plan, all of our World Cups and all of our major events have anti-doping tests during those events. We've also got carded athletes that are the highest level athletes who are on an anti-doping program. So we have a number of athletes where literally they have to record where they are every day, exactly where they are and what they're doing. And they get visited by these anti-doping specialists who then ask them to do a doping test. So doping is huge within the realms of sport, rightly slow, because if we're going to have a playing field, we need to make sure that there is no place for doping in the sport of kickboxing, and there's no place for doping in any sport. And for me, that's one of the key things that we have to ensure, that we have a playing field for our athletes and everybody gets a fair shot, because doping destroys a sport. It destroys a sport, and we've seen it in Rio, we've seen it in other events, that doping can fundamentally undermine the credibility of a sport, and not just the international credibility, but the credibility within the athletes. Because if I step onto the mat, I want to make sure that I've got a fair chance to do that, and you don't have a fair chance of somebody's doping. So we have a big program. We have an anti-doping committee that's constructed with a number of specialists and doctors. So it's huge. But if you go onto the WADA website, you can do this play through or coach through quiz that gives you a great insight into anti-doping, because it's complex. There's a lot of supplements out there that are banned, and there's a lot of secondary supplements out there that are actually banned because they're a trace element and they protect a banned substance from being detected. So if you're in WAKO, if you're in a recognized sport, it's a pretty serious thing, anti-doping.
I agree with you completely. I mean, I have memories of Ben Johnson, and I think it was the 1984 Olympics. He was caught, banned for life. There are many stories from athletes in the UFC and also the MMA world that have been caught. And I think that you're exactly right. The science, the chemistry has just gotten so far ahead that people can take something that gives you some advantage, but it also masks and will help them pass a specific test. So that's a huge part of it right there. And I'm glad you guys are leading with that, out front and honest, fair play for everyone. One man, one woman on the mat versus another opponent. Everybody gets an even playing field.
Yeah, absolutely. That's key. And then another thing, I'm really probably one of the most proudest things that we do in WAKO at the moment, that we've built out a program in Jordan. We call it the dysentery project, and we've trained up a number of individuals in this refugee camp on the border between Syria and Jordan, where you have about 80 or 90,000 people living in tents. And we've built out this full-time program where we've sent over coaches to this program. We've donated mats, we've donated equipment, and we're building out kickboxing schools within that program with other IOC sports to give some facilities and some, ray of hope for these people in these programs. Because I've talked to some of the coaches that have gone to the dysentery project in Jordan, and when you go into this environment, you really do realize how blessed we are living where we live and the facilities that we have. When you see these people and these beautiful people that have absolutely nothing, it's probably one of the most proudest things that I've ever seen WAKO do, and that's donating money, resources, energy, and people into a program for people that have absolutely nothing, not a pair of shoes. And that shows our social conscience. And for me, it's really important to have a social conscience to make sure that we're not just looking at the athletes and those that have, we're looking at expanding our sport into areas where they don't have. They absolutely have nothing to look forward to. And we're doing a lot of work with children, and we're doing a lot of work with women and self-defense for women in those programs. So for me, I'm really, really happy. We've had Gianpaolo Emmanuel Buzzolani from Italy there. We've had Daimi Aiken from Norway over there, teaching these guys how to teach kickboxing to other people. And for me, that's fantastic. It's I get goose pimples. It's number one.
That is a great social conscience for WAKO, and I know it's something you're extremely proud of. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. I know it's getting close to evening time for you. To give people more information, I'm going to give you the last word. What websites can they visit for any and all information about everything we've just...
If you want information on the national federations that are the responsible parties for WAKO, you go to wakoweb.com. Yeah, if you want information about the IOC, how it's structured, the way it's structured, the news that was just announced, you go to the IOC website. But we're a very connected sport worldwide, kickboxing and sport martial arts. So for me, most people know what happened now, and really, really one of the most important parts of this interview is to clear up some of the aspects, because a lot of people are there's a lot of miscommunication out there. So I know we're going to send out a clear communication to our members over the next 2 or 3 days so they know absolutely what's next. But listen, really what I want to say is the recognition of kickboxing isn't just good for WAKO. It's good for all martial arts. It's good for all sports, because we've got another martial art into that very tight-knit community. And that means it's easier for the next one. And I also want to compliment, you had Samba, which is the Russian sport, predominantly Russian sport, and you had lacrosse, also got recognition. So it's a big thing. 3 sports just get into that family. So it makes it easier for other people to come in.
Absolutely, and well said. Roy, thank you. I know you got a very busy schedule. Thank you so much for information is key at this point.
See you at the Irish Open.
Yes, and will there not be any snow this year?
No, please. The whole thing is, I've been promised there'll be no snow. So, as you know, last year we lost about 2,700 athletes because they literally couldn't get there. I know you got there in the end, and I know Emily came in about 3 days later when she was in London, Amsterdam, I don't know. So, yeah, we're looking forward to next year. We're hoping, we know that was that's never happened in my country before. So it was a unique event, unfortunately, the weekend of the Irish Open. So we're looking forward to it. And remember as well, Irish Open is run for a children's charity. Again, showing our social conscience. So it's
Absolutely.
not a private promoter's job. It's run for a children's charity, which I'm proud of.
There's a big heart. And you I think I told you last year was my first Irish Open. So I was a bit surprised. I got there. The entire team got all, taught in Amsterdam.
You probably thought, hey, this is okay. We had about 2,000 people there. You're going, this is a good tournament. Trust me. If you come next year and you see it, you kind of go, oh, okay. Now I understand.
Well, I am planning. I was impressed with what I did see, but don't forget the Irish Open coming up very soon in 2019. Mr. Roy Baker, thank you so much for your time. Everybody that's wishing me a happy birthday today, thank you on the stream. I wanted to acknowledge it, wanted to get the important stuff out of the way first. I'm not important.
What age are you?
I'm sorry?
What age are you? 21?
I am 21 plus a little more after that. So It's a good thing you've got that veterans division, because I definitely qualify for it.
Okay. Take care.
Thank you so much. Guys, we'll see you soon on another SMA Live quite soon. Goodbye.
Thanks, everybody. Be safe.